My childhood sweetheart, the one I dumped, is now a business tycoon. Meanwhile, my family is on the brink of collapse, buried in debt. Just as he showed up, flexing his power and ready for revenge, a live chat feed suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. Side character, if you would just say one single nice thing, the male lead would literally die for you. Just say, "I love you," and he'll hand over his entire fortune. If that's not enough, he'll dig up his family's graves for you. I lifted my hand and slapped him across the face. The chat feed went silent. Jay touched the cheek I'd just slapped, a thoughtful look on his face. "You're caressing my handsome face? Woman, you really do still have feelings for me." The chat feed, oh no, he liked it. I honestly didn't expect Jay to come all the way to my house just to mock me. He was lounging on our sofa in a perfectly tailored custom suit, his sharp, piercing eyes looking at me with cold indifference. "When you, the great Miss Smith, broke off our engagement, did you ever imagine you'd end up in this situation?" His voice was dripping with sarcasm, his eyes full of amusement. "I'm not heartless like you are. As long as you can make me happy today, I might consider lending you some money." As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 bodyguards behind him opened the briefcases in their hands. They were stuffed to the brim with stacks of cash. I frowned, seriously annoyed. Did he not know why I broke off the engagement? My family's business went under, my dad took off faster than a bolt of lightning, and my mom was in a coma at the hospital. And him? He was just a broke student, helpless against the swarm of creditors. What was I supposed to do, marry him? So we could spend our days terrified that debt collectors would break down our door? Or so I could work like a dog day and night to pay off his family's debt? I met Jay's gaze. He was staring at me, unblinking. I was about to let him have it. After all, I'm no innocent little flower who just quietly takes it when provoked. I'm a vicious Venus flytrap. I've never lost a verbal fight. My track record is flawless. But just as I was about to launch my attack, a stream of comments floated past my eyes. "Hey, villainous. Maybe try being a quiet, icy beauty for a change. The second you open your mouth, you're going to verbally annihilate the male lead into a deep depression. Yeah, your fighting skills scare even me. Every time you yell at him, he just stares out the window into the dark night and cries. If you would just shut up and squeeze out a few tears, you wouldn't even have to say anything. The male lead would immediately hand over everything he owns." Really? I looked skeptically at Jay, who was lounging on the sofa, clearly here to enjoy the show. He didn't exactly look like a love-struck fool who'd still be into me after being so cruelly dumped. Crying while staring into the night? Ever since Jay made a name for himself, the rumors were all about how ruthless and decisive he was. I'd even seen it with my own eyes when a competitor, crazed after his defeat, smashed a bottle over Jay's head. Blood was streaming down his face. And Jay? He just smiled as he crippled the guy's hand before sending him off to prison for a life sentence. My dad initially wasn't worried about Jay's rise to power. He said that sure, Jay was impressive, but our family was no pushover. But after he saw that incident, he fainted on the spot. When he woke up, he lived in constant fear that Jay would suddenly show up with a smile and cripple him, too. But Jay acted as if he'd forgotten all about the past humiliation. He even still called my dad uncle whenever he saw him. That put my dad at ease. So I started preparing for a marriage alliance with the Shin family. Then our family business hit a massive snag, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy every single day. And now, Jay was here to gloat. What a petty, conniving man, kicking me when I'm down. But if I didn't back down, I'd be stuck working my butt off for pennies. And I am not done living my life as a rich socialite. Was it really time to start roughing it? No way. I stared at Jay without saying a word. My dad looked from him to me and sighed. After a while, my staring seemed to make Jay uncomfortable, and he sat up a little straighter. I hesitated, then decided to try saying something nice. "Jay. That's it. As long as you don't curse him out, the male lead will fill in the blanks himself. But it was so hard to be nice to a petty jerk who was kicking me when I was down. My expression twisted for a second. Say it. If you don't, you'll not only end up waiting tables at a coffee shop, but someone will intentionally spill coffee on you. And then you'll keep making terrible choices, adding fuel to the fire of the main couple's angsty romance, before finally ending your days in a mental asylum. Okay, that ending sounded pretty bad. It was enough to make me swallow the curse words on the tip of my tongue. Jay! I shouted. What's wrong? Jay shot up from the sofa and rushed over to me, his mocking expression instantly replaced with one of concern. Everyone around us was stunned. His assistant whispered cautiously, "Sir?" Jay looked a little embarrassed. He cleared his throat, straightened his cuffs, and fiddled with his collar. Don't make a big deal out of nothing. Classic. When people are super embarrassed, they pretend to be busy. Stella, I barely have to lift a finger, and the domineering CEO turns into a loyal puppy. Right, nothing to see here. Because this is just the beginning. I sneered. What was that you were saying to me earlier? Make you happy? How am I supposed to make you happy? Jay, probably trying to regain control of the situation, put on an indifferent mask. Well, that all depends on what you're willing to do, Miss Smith. I lifted my hand and slapped him. Here's a slap for your troubles. Are you happy now? Don't you know how disrespectful you were being? Apologize. Everyone's eyes widened. Honey, my dad whispered nervously. Jay touched his slapped cheek and snorted. Fine, I'll make it up to you. He picked up my phone from the table and held it out to me. Post on social media right now and clarify that the rumors about you and the Shen family are just tabloid gossip. The Shens were the family I was supposed to form a marriage alliance with. We'd floated the news, but nothing was official yet. This wasn't a big deal. I didn't even hesitate. I took the phone, typed out a message, and hit post. That's more like it. The corners of Jay's mouth twitched up before he immediately forced them back down. He kept a straight face. I'm sorry. It was my fault. Of course it's your fault. Some people in the old days had bound feet. You have a brain that's just as small. Honey, maybe we should watch what we say? My dad mumbled, sweating for me. But Jay wasn't even angry. This time, he couldn't stop the smile from spreading across his face. Oh no, he totally loved that. He got slapped and he's still savoring the touch. Male lead's brain, how dare you hit me? Male lead's heart, hee, she touched my handsome face. So the villainess can insult people without even cursing. You must be new here. Let me fill you in, this is her holding back. You know you were wrong, so what are you waiting for? Get out. I was already stressed about the family business, and now he was here with his entourage, crowding the place. He was sucking up all the fresh air. Leaving right now. Jay started to walk out, but then he noticed none of his men had moved. He frowned. What are you all standing around for? His assistant, feeling indignant for his boss, spoke up. We came here today for revenge, to put her in her place. Jay cut him off. Didn't she already do that? I'm laughing so hard my legs are cramping. The face that got slapped was his own. Male lead, if you love her this much now, why are you going to fall for your secretary later and have Stella committed to a mental asylum? Because this is a system redemption novel. Stella is the side character. The male lead secretary is the real heroine with the system. That comment was a lot to take in. Before I could fully process it, Jay's secretary, Melody, stepped forward. Sir, have you forgotten the look on this woman's face when she abandoned you? She cast you aside like trash just because you were poor. She didn't care at all that you were completely alone and helpless back then. Jay's face darkened. This heroine doesn't seem very bright. She's actually kind of annoying. The male lead isn't going to turn on the side character because of her, is he? Jay's face was cold. Who gave you permission to comment on your boss's private life? Melody's face went pale, but she pushed on. I just feel so bad for you. She threw a bank card at your face and told you to get as far away from her as possible. Have you forgotten all that? A hint of softness appeared in Jay's eyes. Of course I haven't forgotten. Then why do you look so happy? Jay's smile grew wider. Because I understand her good intentions. She gave me that money because she saw that I desperately needed it for my mom's medical bills. And she told me to get lost so I could hide from the creditors and protect myself. Melody continued, but right after she broke off the engagement, she immediately started flirting with someone else. Jay replied, that was just her little way of motivating me to work harder and be better. Melody listened, her vision went dark, and she nearly fainted. I was a little curious about how Jay's brain worked. How could it be so unique? Wow. The male lead's logic is so solid, he's not only convinced himself, he's convinced me. I'm a doctor, and I diagnosed the male lead with a terminal case of being hopelessly love-struck. There is no cure. Jay gave his men a look, signaling for them to get a move on. As he reached the door, he turned back around and said to Melody, Ms. M.O., I was very unhappy with your behavior today. You've lost this month's bonus. One more time, and you're fired. Everyone left except for Melody. She stared at me with hatred. Don't get too cocky. Sooner or later, the boss will see you for the materialistic, awful person you really are. And then he won't love you anymore. Do you have any idea how much he's suffered because of you all these years? How much has he suffered? Are you his keeper? I scoffed and circled her, looking her up and down. I hear you come from a rough background. Swapping daughters for marriage is common where you're from. When you were 14, you were almost married off to a crippled old man so your brother could get a wife. You must have fought your way here, tooth and nail. Your head should be filled with ambition and power. But it seems like the only thing in there right now is a man. Back then, Jay was a total mess. Could love have paid off his debts? Could it have magically cured his mother? A smart bird chooses a strong tree to nest in. Choosing a rotten branch is just asking for trouble. Melody's eyes turned red, and she shook her head relentlessly. But the Smiths had money back then. If you had just helped, he wouldn't have had to suffer so much. If you really loved him, you should have given him everything, especially when it was just a little money. Was it a little money? Back then, my family's business wasn't that big. To fill the whole of the Pei family's debt, we would have had to throw our entire family's fortune in after it. Besides, there's an old saying, every man for himself, or heaven and earth will strike you down. Jay was the one who hit rock bottom. Why should I have jumped down with him? But he loves you so much. Did you ever think about how much your actions would hurt him? I sighed. This felt like talking to a brick wall. Why do you think he loves me? I'm materialistic and selfish, but I'm also gorgeous and smart. He loves my looks. He loves the way I shine in the spotlight. And because of that, he can accept my flaws. If I were plain and stupid, do you think he would still love me? That's not true, Melody retorted loudly. As long as you have a beautiful soul, he would still love you. I laughed out loud. I asked her, do you think I have a beautiful soul right now? And does he love me? Melody fell silent. People are shallow. The only reason you think he's different from everyone else is because your love has put a filter over your eyes. A tear rolled down Melody's cheek. She murmured, is that really how it is? I gently wiped the tear from her eye. That's exactly how it is, I said softly. Love is never pure. It's always mixed with your own interests, desires, or something else. And the first rule of loving someone else is that you have to love yourself first. This selfish, villainous character persona is just chef's kiss. I couldn't agree more. This is so much better than those stories where the heroine just throws money and her life away to win the guy's affection. Hey! The heroine is blushing. The lilies in my hometown are blooming. I wish I had a chance with her too. It's not that I wasn't angry at Melody. Every word she said was enough to give me a heart attack from sheer rage. I really wanted to just walk up and give her a couple of satisfying slaps. But then I thought about it. The real culprit was someone else. She was just the knife in the killer's hand. The live comments had given me a lot of information. For instance, the world I live in is a system novel. I'm the villainess, Jay is the male lead who suffered a huge blow early on, and Melody is the one who was transported into this world to win him over. She was only 10 when she arrived. She was an orphan before, and after arriving, she had a family that treated her like a blood bank for her brother. The system's demand was simple and brutal: win over the male lead, and you can go back. At first, she refused to follow the plot. But every time she went against it, she would get into all sorts of accidents, leaving her covered in injuries. She lived every day in fear. At 14, after the system helped her escape the arranged marriage and continue her education, she completely gave in. She started obeying the system without question. She met Jay in college. From then on, Jay became the center of her universe. Under the system's instructions, she gave him whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. She was the perfect example of someone who would sacrifice everything. And I, the bitter, twisted villainess, was dedicated to bullying and insulting her while the male lead chased after me obsessively. In the future, I was supposed to drug Jay, hoping to sleep with him and use it to trap him. But something would go wrong, and the male and female leads would end up sleeping together instead. Looking at the heroine, covered in marks and trembling as she told him, "It's okay, it was an accident," Jay would finally have a revelation: I was a shameless, evil woman. And the heroine who had been with him through it all had quietly found a place in his heart. His feelings for me were nothing more than resentment after being dumped, a sense of superiority from seeing me fall so far from grace. That was the only reason he had let me get close. I almost had to applaud the system. This whole operation was so exploitative that even a capitalist like me would shed a tear. It was making the heroine work herself to death without pay. It trapped a young, impressionable girl in a helpless situation. Then, when she was at her most desperate, it would swoop in to save her, making her forget the harm it had caused. It made itself her only support. It constantly drilled the idea of winning over the male lead into her head, teaching her to sacrifice everything for that goal. Even if it meant being mocked and treated coldly. Her dignity was trampled, her pride broken. Day after day, the girl forgot how to resist and only knew how to accept. She told herself that this was what love was, sacrificing for the other person. So what should I do? I can't fight it. Melody's eyes were red from crying. I caressed her face, wiping away her tears. Don't be afraid. From now on, I'll be by your side. I'll help you. Melody suddenly threw herself into my arms. I gently stroked her back, murmuring soft reassurances. I know you've been through so much. If you need to cry, just let it all out. Melody sobbed in my arms, her quiet sniffles turning into loud wails. It was as if she was finally releasing all the years of injustice, fear, confusion, and resentment. A single beam of sunlight streamed in through the window, as if heralding a new path for her. I stroked Melody's back and slowly curved my lips into a smile. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Did the villainess just win over the heroine? Did the villainess secretly get a charisma maxing system? How is she charming everyone so easily? I didn't expect a loving hug. I feel like I'm back in the "I'm not a poisonous woman" arc. After she finished crying, Melody told me more. I tried to resist once. Early in his startup phase, Jay was attacked by guys hired by a competitor. According to the plot, I was supposed to take a knife for him. That wound would have left my left hand disabled, and it would have made him feel indebted to me. I didn't want to do it, so on the day it was supposed to happen, I made an excuse to be somewhere else. I avoided that plot point, but for the next month. I was followed, my phone exploded, my bag was snatched on the street, so many things happened. I didn't have a single peaceful day. The worst part was, one time we ran into a scammer who was faking an injury. In the scuffle, he threw a punch. It was aimed at Jay, but somehow it just happened to land on me. It felt like the system was warning me that resisting wouldn't change the outcome and would only bring more disaster. I squeezed her hand. It's okay. You've managed to protect yourself well, and you haven't hurt anyone. From now on, you've got me. Melody whispered, okay, looking at me with complete trust. She was as docile as a lamb. That night, I stood by the window with a glass of wine, looking out at the river. Someone wrapped their arms around me from behind. The cool, slightly stiff fabric of his suit felt a little uncomfortable. I struggled slightly, which only made him hold me tighter. He bit my neck playfully in protest. Why did you post on social media denying our relationship? Are you going back to your old flame? Dumping me? I should have known how deadly a first love can be. I should have locked you up long ago so you'd only belong to me. Julian was sounding more and more unhinged. He bit me again, and this time it hurt. I raised my hand and slapped him. He immediately behaved. You really are asking for it. Julian shamelessly turned his other cheek towards me. Yes, I am. This side, too. Baby, can you slap me every day from now on? Just me. I pushed him away. If you're going to be a masochist, get out. At that moment, the live chat exploded. Are the villain and the villainess flirting? Shouldn't he be plotting how to take down the male lead right now? Villain, why aren't you out there killing the male lead's money tree in the dead of night? What are you doing here? She just won over the heroine, and now it looks like the villain has fallen too. Villainess, what other surprises do you have that I don't know about? Stella. I ignored his wounded, pleading gaze. I got straight to the point. How's the investigation I asked you to do? The Smiths made its fortune in real estate. We recently invested all our capital into a piece of land on the east side of the city, planning to develop a resort. But just days after we broke ground, a rumor suddenly spread that the land contained radioactive material. It plunged my family straight into a financial crisis. Julian lowered his head in shame. I've only found a few leads so far. They point to the Gordon family. The Gordons? I frowned slightly. I had a very bad feeling about them. Stella, are you going to think I'm useless? Julian looked like a 6-foot-tall kid who'd done something wrong and was afraid of being scolded. Of course not. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Whoever is behind this is clearly a major player to cause this much trouble. The fact that you found any clues this quickly is already amazing. Give it a little more time, and I'm sure you'll find the person behind it all. I believe in you. Julian cupped the back of my neck and kissed me deeply. A soft murmur escaped between our lips. Stella, I love you so much. I responded gently. Julian. The man I'd set my sights on after Jay's family fell. My intended marriage alliance partner. He was the real son of Mrs. Shen, who had been swapped at birth by her husband's mistress. After being found, he was intentionally raised to be twisted and broken by that same mistress. His mind was already warped. It took a lot of effort to win him over back then. Villain, move. Let me take your place for 2 minutes. Let me kiss her. This villainess is a pro. A slap and a sweet word, she's got the villain wrapped around her little finger. Up, down, left, right. This is the kind of content we strong women need to get through the day. Julian let me go, burying his face in my neck and inhaling my scent. Stella, you smell so good. Stella, you denied our relationship today, and it made me so sad. Can I have some compensation? I want you. I stroked his soft, fluffy hair. A small laugh escaped my lips. The Gordon family business isn't sorted out yet. Shouldn't you be working on that first? Julian paused for a moment. Then he said, bedroom activities are still activities. Let's take care of the bedroom work first. I turned his face towards me. Well then, you'd better perform well. Not long after Julian left, I received a message from Melody. Stella, Jay has a business dinner tomorrow. He's going to get drunk and mistake me for you. What should I do? I thought for a moment and replied, time and place. The next day, I ran into Jay at the restaurant. His eyes lit up when he saw me. You came here especially for me. I shrugged and smiled. I was supposed to meet someone, but I got stood up. It was a flimsy excuse, but that didn't stop Jay from believing it completely. Learning that I wasn't here for him and that I'd been stood up, Jay's expression fell a little. I spoke up at the right moment. Looks like my whole day is going to be wasted. Jay said quickly, do you want to join me? But you're here for a business dinner. Aren't you afraid I'll overhear some trade secrets? This is just an initial meeting. Besides, what secrets could I possibly have that you can't hear? I followed Jay into the private room. As soon as the door opened, I saw a person I absolutely loathed. Well, if it isn't Miss Smith. The man was in his 30s. He carried himself with an air of importance, but he had a face like a deep-sea fish randomly put together. The current head of the Gordon family, Mr. Gordon. The Gordons were an old, established family in the area with deep, tangled connections. Although Julian and Jay were rising stars in the business world, they still couldn't compare to the Gordons when it came to political influence. Isn't that the old creep the villainess was supposed to get with for money after she went bankrupt? Even though he gets taken down by the male lead in the end, that lecherous look on his face is just nauseating. Looks like not all guys with the last name Gordon are handsome CEOs. I didn't need the live comments to tell me what a creep Mr. Gordon was. Melody tugged on my sleeve from behind. I glanced at her, giving her a look to let her know it was okay. Mr. Gordon, I'm just here to grab a free meal. You guys go ahead and talk. Just pretend I'm a piece of furniture. Miss Smith, you're too modest. A woman with your beauty and talent could never be just a piece of furniture. Mr. Gordon's words sounded straightforward enough, but Jay instinctively felt something was off. He smiled and took over the conversation. They didn't really talk much business. After a couple of drinks, Jay started to look dazed. He clutched his head, and from an angle where Mr. Gordon couldn't see, he shot a sharp glare at Melody. Melody's face went pale, and she shook her head slightly. Mr. Gordon said, Mr. Pay can't seem to hold his liquor. Secretary Mo, why don't you take your boss to the lounge to rest? Melody stood frozen, looking reluctant. I was just a guest Mr. Pay brought along. Now that the main person has left, I have no reason to stay. I'll go with Secretary Mo. Mr. Gordon blocked my path. Mr. Pay may have left, but surely Miss Smith can grace me with her presence for dinner? With Jay drunk, the man wasn't even pretending anymore. I smiled without a hint of warmth. You're too kind, Mr. Gordon. After Melody left with Jay, Mr. Gordon's gaze turned sleazy. Stella, my dear, I hear your family has run into a bit of trouble lately. The Gordon family has connections everywhere. Maybe we could help you out. You wouldn't want to end up poor and starving, would you? So, Mr. Gordon, you're admitting you had something to do with the issue with that plot of land. Mr. Gordon gave a greasy smile. If I say it has a problem, it has a problem. If I say it doesn't, it doesn't. It all depends on what you choose, my dear. Mr. Gordon moved closer to me, stopping about a foot away to take a sniff. I've admired you for a very long time, Miss Smith. It's just that I prefer things to be consensual. I'd rather not use force until it's the last resort. This is so gross, I'm about to puke. Is there a fast forward button? My dear. This is straight up harassment. I'd slap him, but I'm afraid he'd lick my hand. Villainous, slap him already. If you don't, I'm going to jump through the screen and do it for you. Careful what you wish for. You might actually get transported into the book. I shot a sideways glance at Mr. Gordon's haphazard face. Mr. Gordon, have you ever been to an aquarium? He looked confused. He answered tentatively, I vaguely remember going as a child, but it's been many years. I raised my hand and slapped him. I pointed at the half-eaten fish on the table. Well, I'm guessing you've never been to the deep sea exhibit. Otherwise, why would you be eating your own relatives? I followed up with 2 more slaps. Go home and memorize the entire text of the sonnet 300 times. Maybe then you'll stop believing your own hype after hearing so much flattery. That slap was so satisfying. I can finally breathe again. After slapping Mr. Gordon, I turned to leave. His assistant, hearing the commotion from outside, rushed in and blocked my path. Do you want to be yelled at or slapped? The assistant didn't say a word. I took his silence to mean he wanted both. This guy was just greedy. I wasn't about to indulge him. I slapped him and walked out. When I found Melody and Jay had his arms around Melody, calling her Stella. Melody looked at me like I was her savior, her eyes pleading for help. Stella. I went over and pulled Jay off of her. I picked up a glass of water and splashed it in his face. Jay quieted down, his expression dazed as if he'd sobered up a little. Then, he fell backward and passed out. Useless thing. Doesn't he know he can't drink? Melody instinctively whispered a defense. He does know, sir. That's why for every dinner, he has the waiter swap his drink for something that looks similar. He did it this time too, but I don't know why something went wrong. I clicked my tongue. It seemed the so-called systems conditioning of Melody wouldn't be undone overnight. She still instinctively defended Jay. Insult him. Melody froze for a second, then seemed to understand what I was getting at. She mustered her courage and spat quietly at Jay. You damn exploitative bastard. Good. I told Melody to go out first and leave the rest to me. Her expression suddenly changed. She let out a small gasp and covered her mouth, her finger pointing at my collar. It turned out that in the recent commotion, my collar had come loose, revealing the hickey Julian had left last night. I was about to tell her not to make a big deal out of it when the door was suddenly thrown open. Julian burst in like a gust of wind. He grabbed my shoulders, looking me up and down. Stella, are you okay? Melody glanced at the unconscious Jay on the bed, then at the frantic Julian. Finally, she silently gave me a thumbs up and slipped out. The villain running into the male lead's jealous fit. Is he going to kill him while he's drunk? No. If he kills him, the villainess will only have one guy left. Friendly reminder to the person above, she can always find more. Am I the only one who thinks the heroine's thumbs up was adorable? Fortunately, Julian couldn't see the live comments, otherwise Kill Jay might have actually become an option for him. After making sure I was okay, Julian started picking fault with Jay. He's not even better looking than me. And he looks like he's an inch shorter than me. You're into this kind of trash. And you were alone with him in a room. If I hadn't gotten here in time, were you planning on letting something happen? A single slap successfully shut Julian up. You come in here and start questioning me, without even asking what I just went through? Julian remembered why he had come, and his eyes filled with hatred. Stella, I'm sorry. I was blinded by jealousy. I heard Mr. Gordon and his assistant talking about how they were going to take care of you sooner or later. I realized you were in trouble and rushed over. And then I saw you with Jay. I was so scared of losing you. Sob, Stella, please forgive me. With tears in my eyes, I told him what had happened in the private room. I caressed Julian's face. Julian, he's not going to let me go. I'm going to have to live the rest of my life in fear. Julian's eyes darkened. He held my hand and promised, no, you won't. I buried my face in his chest. You have to succeed. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. After finally coaxing Julian to leave, my gaze fell on Jay on the bed. One down, one to go. When Jay woke up, the first thing he saw was me, sitting by his side. His eyes instantly reddened. I knew it. I just knew it. I knew that after all these years, you never forgot about me. Does he think I watched over him all night? I actually slept in the room next door and just got here a little while ago. But this was a beautiful misunderstanding, and if he didn't ask, I certainly wasn't going to correct him. I was about to speak when Jay asked nervously, "Mr. Gordon didn't give you any trouble last night, did he? I think I heard him keeping you behind." His timing was perfect. He tried, but I hit him back. I recounted last night's events again, but this time I focused on how satisfying it was to slap Mr. Gordon when he was harassing me. Seeing how excited I was, Jay couldn't help but worry. Knowing Mr. Gordon's personality, I'm afraid he won't let this go. Then he seemed to relax. But it doesn't matter. I'll protect you. I'm not afraid of him, even without your protection. I reached out and ran my hand over his abs, making him blush furiously. He covered himself, trying to stop me. "You're just the same as you always were." "The same as in, I still like you?" This was the first time I had ever told him I liked him so directly. Jay was clearly happy, but he still tried to play it cool. "Are you sure you like me, and not my money and status?" "Of course I'm sure. Of course I'm sure your money and status are part of you. Liking you and liking parts of you aren't mutually exclusive." Jay, blushing, shyly took off his shirt. He whispered, "Go ahead. Touch." Oh my God. What am I seeing? It's Grandpa's wife. A Chinese internet slang for something amazing. The villainess should open a masterclass. She's got them completely under her thumb. Why do I feel like the plot has gone completely off the rails? That's not important. Just as I was getting handsy with Jay, feeling him up until his face was flushed, Melody walked in. "Stella, ah." Melody shrieked and covered her face. Being interrupted made Jay very unhappy. "Your year-end bonus is gone." Melody's face twisted for a second. "Bosses who dock your pay are the worst." I slapped Jay. "What are you talking about? Put your shirt back on." I suggested Melody drive me home. Jay wanted to take me himself. I shot back, "You want to drive me with a hangover? Are you trying to give me a ride to the underworld?" Jay went quiet. On the way, Melody kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Am I the road?" Melody immediately sat up straight. "No. Has your system been acting up?" The main reason I wanted her to drive me was to check on her situation. "No." I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed her mission had a lot of wiggle room. The goal was for Jay to reach the top and find happiness. The system said he needed to fall in love with Melody, but that was just to fill the emotional void in his life, to become a part of his happiness. In other words, as long as Jay had someone in his heart, and that person had him in theirs, it was fine. The specific person wasn't a strict requirement. "Stella, once I'm free from this mission," Melody said, "you should poach me. I want to work for you. The heroine is so cute, the villainess should just take her in." "Yes, take her." The heroine is always getting her pay docked by the male lead. It hurts my heart to watch. I hire people based on ability, not cuteness. "Stella, we'll see what you're capable of." Melody let out a tiny cheer. I knew Mr. Gordon wouldn't let things go, so I took every precaution. But it still wasn't enough. I was kidnapped. "Miss Smith, I prefer things to be consensual. If you bow your head now, I can make things less painful for you." "Ah." "Get your hands off the villainess's face." Tech support. I need that fast-forward function. This guy's face is too unique, I can't bear to look at it. The live comments were more hysterical than the last. But who was more hysterical than me, the person actually in the situation? How can a person be so ugly and so creepy at the same time? But I'm the kind of person who can't stand to be wronged, not even for a second. What are you laughing at? You laugh like a bald cartoon character with hair. You're dragging your already low attractiveness score down into the Mariana Trench. And you don't like to use force? With that child-sized body of yours, could you even use force? I could knock you out with one punch. Ugly face, but you sure play dirty. That's you. You. Shut your mouth. Mr. Gordon's face turned as red as a flower with rage. He went to a cabinet and started rummaging through it. Finally, he found a vial of some drug. Let's see if you can still run your mouth after this. He held the vial and walked towards me with a menacing grin. No. That drug damages the nervous system. Don't turn our amazing villainess into an idiot. Villainous, control your mouth. Say something nice to appease this old pervert. Compared to your life, nothing else matters. Villainous, just give in for a second. Why couldn't you tell me he had such a vicious drug before I was about to die? I admit, maybe I was a little too loud just now. What could I possibly say now to make this psycho stop? This drug is called Ascension. I had it specially developed. Drink this, and you'll have no more worries. You'll be as happy as a god. Mr. Gordon pinched my chin. At that exact moment, the door was kicked open. Melody rushed in first, with Jay and Julian right behind her. They kicked Mr. Gordon away and untied the ropes around me. Stella. Stella. Julian and Jay flanked me, one on each side, their eyes filled with concern and self-blame. I ignored them and walked straight to Mr. Gordon. He stumbled backward. What are you doing? I snatched the vial from his hand. First, I gave him 2 hard slaps across the face, then I pried his mouth open and poured the entire contents down his throat. On the way back, Melody was driving. Jay and Julian sat on either side of me, pressed tightly against me, not saying a word. When we got home, they stayed with me for a while. After they confirmed the incident hadn't caused any psychological trauma, Jay gave Julian a look. The two of them went out together. After they left, Melody carefully closed the door. She walked over to me and took out a phone. Stella, did you let yourself get caught on purpose? I didn't answer her question. I just said, you did well. Her skills assessment was passed. She could work for me now. Based on the information I had and the clues from the live comments, I knew the Gordon family would eventually fall, leaving only Jay and Julian to compete with each other. The Smiths of that time would be nothing special. But I couldn't wait that long. The Gordon family was powerful, and Mr. Gordon's obsession with me was like a cancer. Getting rid of Mr. Gordon himself wasn't hard, the hard part was dealing with the endless trouble that would follow. Right now, neither Jay nor Julian had a high chance of winning against the Gordon family alone. So the only option was a united front. I had to provoke their hatred for the Gordons and make them realize they had a common enemy. That's why I had a tracker hidden on me and gave the phone link to it to Melody. And if she hadn't been quick enough on the uptake? Don't worry. I had a backup plan. 3 years later, the long-standing Gordon family finally collapsed. And our family took the opportunity to expand like crazy. Not only was the resort built, but we also launched several new business ventures. The future was looking bright. After the Gordon family fell and I accepted Jay's confession of love, the system determined that Melody's mission was complete. Since she was an orphan in her original world with no ties, she chose to stay. She immediately resigned and jumped ship to my company. Now, she's my most capable general. I doubled her salary, and she was so happy she couldn't see straight. Outside of work, we would sometimes chat about our private lives. Just like now. Boss, what exactly is your plan for Mr. Pei and Mr. Shen? Now that the common enemy is gone, they're probably going to team up against you. Well, about that. I just smiled without saying a word. The door was suddenly pushed open. Stella, are you free tonight? I have a surprise for you. Julian burst in, followed by his embarrassed-looking secretary. I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, I couldn't stop him. I motioned for him to leave. Julian squeezed in next to me on the sofa. What's the surprise? Can you give me a little hint? Julian shook his head. It wouldn't be a surprise if I gave you a hint. The door was suddenly pushed open again. Jay was here, too. Next to him was his secretary, on the verge of tears. "I'm sorry, Ms. Smith." I motioned for him to leave as well. Jay pointed an angry finger at Julian. He raged, "Who do you think you are? Is that your seat? Who gave you permission to sit so close to my girlfriend?" Julian rolled his eyes. "She's my fiancée. I can sit as close as I want." "What nonsense are you talking about? She's my girlfriend. My fiancée." It's a shame I couldn't see the live comments anymore. I really wanted to know how they were roasting these two. Watching drama unfold is human nature. Although Melody was trying her best to suppress her curiosity, she still had the expression of someone choking on juicy gossip. From a corner where no one was paying attention, she mouthed a question at me. "What now? What now?" "Of course, I'll take them both. One in the light, one in the shadows. One to handle the south, one to handle the north."